Hi everybody, I'm Jordan Rolfus from Beagle Rampant Productions, and welcome back to our month of romance, where we are doing love stories from around the entire world. Not the entire world, I selected 4 countries that I've been to, and today we are going to be taking a look at a story that is actually an opera composed by the great Richard Wagner, my favorite composer of all time. We're going to be taking a look at the opera Tannhäuser, which kind of has a bit of an interesting story to it, an interesting story behind the actual opera, and the story that is told in the opera is interesting, but this opera was completed in 1845, and Wagner was never really satisfied with the result. He said on his deathbed that he still owed the world Tannhäuser. There are 3 different versions that a person could listen to. There's the Dresden version, there's the Paris version, and then there's the Vienna version, and every one of these versions have advantages over the others. Personally, I think if you're going to go ahead and listen to Tannhäuser, which you should because it's absolutely fabulous and it's one of the most amazing operas ever written, but if you're going to go ahead and listen to this, I would recommend listening to the Wolfgang Sawallisch interpretations. Sawallisch beautifully weaves together all 3 of the versions of Tannhäuser into a work that is cohesive and it makes a lot of sense, and the flow is just so absolutely incredible. And of course, definitely check out the ones that have Wolfgang Windgassen playing the lead role of Tannhäuser. I love Wolfgang Windgassen. He is one of my favorite tenors of all time, and you know, a bunch of twerps on the internet like to get up there and talk about Wolfgang Windgassen's weak voice. Well, you know what? Maybe I think your face is weak. Maybe I do, you know, get up there. I'd like to see you get up there and try to sing the part of Tannhäuser, you know, so before you start getting all high and mighty, yeah. But I digress. So we're going to take a look at the plot of Tannhäuser, and if you listen to the Paris version, the whole second act is going to be almost a complete surprise to you, because pretty much the core of the second act is actually removed. So we're going to take a look at all 3 acts of Tannhäuser and give you the scoop on how this opera runs down. So a little bit of the background of the story before we jump into Act 1 here. Tannhäuser is a minstrel knight, a knight who also participates in singing contests, kind of like a bard knight. I wasn't really sure that that was an actual combination, but I guess it's as logical as anything else. And Tannhäuser lived in the early 12th century in the area of Germany known as Thuringia. And of course, the main castle of Thuringia is the Wartburg castle. Tannhäuser left the company of Hermann the Landgrave and his fellow knights over some disagreements and arguments, and Tannhäuser decided to go ahead and join the pagan goddess Venus in her grotto in Venusburg. And of course, in Venusburg, as you can imagine, there are a lot of crazy, debauched, bacchanal festivities that they have, and for a while, Tannhäuser enjoys this. He thinks this is the right thing to do, you know? That's the right way to live. But eventually, the orgiastic community just doesn't really fit well with Tannhäuser anymore, so he asks Venus to return to Thuringia and to the Wartburg castle, to which Venus says, wait, you're immortal here. You want to go back to being immortal and back with these people you didn't get along with? And Tannhäuser's like, yeah, I think I do. So Venus goes ahead and sends Tannhäuser back to Thuringia Field into the other company of the rest of the knights, but before Tannhäuser gets to them, we hear a beautiful song from a young shepherd singing the praises to the German goddess Holda. Now, from everything I thought I understood, I always thought Holda was like the German version of Venus, but here Venus exists as a named character, and this shepherd is singing a song to Holda, so I guess we're doing a DC multiverse sort of thing here. Okay. And in beautiful contrast to the shepherds singing to the pagan goddess Holda, we hear the pilgrims making their way to Rome, singing their prayers and adorations. Eventually, Tannhäuser hears the hunting party, and he realizes that the knights must be nearby. And of course, Tannhäuser meets up with the rest of his minstrel knight buddies, including Wolfram, his good friend Wolfram von Eschenbach, and of course, Reinmar and Walter are there. Ugh. And Heinrich and Bieterolf are there. God. Seriously, Heinrich and Bieterolf are there. Tannhäuser never really got along with Heinrich or Bieterolf all that much, but yeah, what can you do, you know? I guess he had to realize that they would still be there. Wolfram asks Tannhäuser, "Hey, where have you been?" And Tannhäuser, realizing that this is a group of dedicated Christian knights, that is a huge plot point. Keep that in the back of your head. These knights are dedicated Christian knights. They are very religious and devout. Keep that in the back of your head. That will come up later. Tannhäuser dodges the question of where he's been, because he doesn't really want to tell them that he was in the orgiastic pleasures of a pagan goddess. So, yeah, Tannhäuser decides, okay, I'm going to go ahead and find some other adventures, because, you know, Heinrich and Bieterolf are here. Of course, you know. So, Tannhäuser's getting ready to leave, but Wolfram reminds Tannhäuser of the Landgrave's niece, Herman the Landgrave. Wolfram reminds Tannhäuser of Herman the Landgrave's niece, Elizabeth. Oh, that perks up Tannhäuser's interest. You know how, like, you have that friend when you were little and you don't see them for a while, and then, like, when you're in your 20s, you see them again, and they are, like, drop-dead gorgeous? Like, yeah, Tannhäuser's thinking that's the sort of thing he's going to be experiencing. I've experienced that myself, and whew, yeah, that feeling does not disappoint, let me tell you. So, all of a sudden, yeah, Tannhäuser is interested in joining their company again because Elizabeth. Wow, I literally just did that in a video about a Wagner opera. But anyway, the hunters proudly rejoice with the rest of the knights, and they make their way into the castle of Wartburg, ending Act 1. This is a pretty short opera. It's 3 hours, the standard opera length, 1 hour for each act, which is perfectly reasonable. Wagner's known for doing his upwards of 4.5-hour operas, and he has some of the longest operas ever written, but Tannhäuser isn't one of them. So in Act 2, we have Elizabeth entering the hall, singing the hall's praises and how good it is to be back there. Tannhäuser meets up with them, and the two share a beautiful, lovely duet. At that point, Herman the Landgrave comes in and announces that they're going to have a nice festivity, and the hall is filled with singers and dancers. This is the Grand March of Tannhäuser, and this is an absolutely beautiful movement. All of it is a beautiful movement. The whole opera is absolutely beautiful, but the Grand March even gathered a lot of praise and adoration from the Paris audience, which Wagner had a very hard time relating to, and the Grand March of Tannhäuser happens, and it's an absolutely festive and amazing time. At that point, Herman the Landgrave decides we're going to have a singing contest, and the theme of this year's contest is going to be, what is the true nature of love? And yes, you can definitely see where this is going. So, up first is Wolfram to sing his beloved song, and he sings a song about how being around such noble and inspiring people leads him to a greater spiritual aspiration and a greater yearning for divinity. Tannhäuser mocks Wolfram's lack of passion and says, "You don't know anything about love. Here's the scoop of love. True love can only be found within the goddess Venus." And of course, as I mentioned, this is a room filled with devout Christians, and Tannhäuser has just admitted, "Yeah, I've been hanging out with a pagan goddess in her grotto in these debauched bacchanals, and the only way you can actually get love is through a pagan goddess." So naturally, everyone is absolutely horrified. The women actually run away because, I mean, I would run away as a gentleman because dude says he's just got back from a year of hanging out with Venus. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to start some groping. I mean, I would run too. Like, any smart person would run from Mr. I like to hang out with Venus. And, of course, the Landgrave says, "Well, you have to die, man. I mean, that's a very serious crime." To which Elizabeth says, "No, you can't kill him." I mean, we're Christian, right? Isn't a huge portion of Christianity supposed to be forgiveness and repentance? To which everyone says, "Yeah, I suppose so." Beta Rolf is especially angry at all of this. He wants to go out and battle Tannhäuser right then and there, but Elizabeth kind of calmed him down a little bit. "Yeah, I guess Christians should be kind and forgiving." Ugh. And at that point, Tannhäuser realizes, "I messed up, oh my goodness." You never realize that you're messing up when you're doing the stupid thing. You always have to wait until after you do the stupid thing and you're in epic amounts of trouble. That's when you realize, wow, I horked that one up. I'm an idiot. And that was totally the thing that happened to Tannhäuser there. Eventually, the Landgrave decides, okay, there's the band of pilgrims heading their way to Rome. You need to join those pilgrims, Tannhäuser, and receive a special pardon from the Pope. We are cutting out the middleman and going straight to the big guy himself. So Tannhäuser decides, okay, yeah, I'm going to go off to Rome. And that ends the second act with Tannhäuser really making a mess of things and rushing off to go get a papal pardon. To start with Act 3, the Valley of Wartburg is now dreary, and Wolfram and Elizabeth are awaiting Tannhäuser's return. They hear the beautiful Pilgrim's Chorus, probably the most famous part of the opera, and definitely my favorite part of the opera. And they think, okay, Tannhäuser must be with them, right? And they look around, and there's no Tannhäuser. Oh. Elizabeth, forlorn now, I mean, she was forlorn since the whole mess kind of went really south there, Elizabeth sings a devout prayer to Mary and then heads off stage, claiming that her path leads to heaven. She gonna die! She's so dead, she dead! Just keep that in the back of your head. Her path leads to heaven, she dead! Wolfram, now alone, looks up at the beautiful evening stars and sings of their beauty and majesty. And eventually, Tannhäuser comes limping along behind the rest of the pilgrims. And Wolfram asks, so, how'd the Pope go? And Tannhäuser says, well, the Pope pardoned thousands and thousands of other people, but, when I got to him and told him what I did, he said that my chances of finding salvation are about as good as his staff sprouting leaves. So I am doomed and I am lost, so I'm going to head back to Venus, because there's nothing left for me. Nothing Wolfram or any of the other knights say could dissuade Tannhäuser from this decision, and eventually the image of Venus appears, welcoming Tannhäuser back into her arms, and Tannhäuser's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And Wolfram, now desperate, he does not want to lose his friend to this life of debauchery. He whispers the name Elizabeth to Tannhäuser. At that, Tannhäuser stops and looks at Venus and says, I can't. And Venus says, you're going to give up immortality again. you're serious, right? I mean, I really can't make any other allowances here. And Tannhäuser's like, yeah, I have to. I'm in love with Elizabeth. I mean, true love dictates that I stand here, so thanks but no thanks. Reluctantly, the image of Venus fades away, and a courtier brings out Elizabeth's body, which, of course, is dead, because her path leads to heaven, remember, so she dead! The courtier brings out Elizabeth's lifeless body. Tannhäuser, now getting ready to die, wow, that mortality thing kicked in kind of quickly there. He breathes his last, and in his dying breath, he says, "Holy Elizabeth, pray for me." And he bends over Elizabeth's lifeless body, and he too joins her in paradise. The rest of the crowd is amazed at the Pope's staff. How they got the Pope's staff, I'm not exactly sure, but the Pope's staff has now sprouted beautiful green leaves. So, happy ending. I mean, they're together. Yeah, but that's Tannhäuser, a beautiful opera, my favorite opera, written by Richard Wagner in the year 1845. Of course, as I mentioned, I recommend listening to the Wolfgang Sawallisch versions because he interprets all of the different versions absolutely beautifully. He integrates them so well and so masterfully. And, of course, check out Wolfgang Windgassen. He is one of the best Helden tenors that has ever lived. We call a Wagnerian tenor a Helden tenor. Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, I guess that's like a little trademark thing, but let me know down in the comments section below what you guys thought of this video. And of course, make sure you click that subscribe button. I do everything I do for my wonderful fans. I have the best fans of any YouTuber in the entire world. I love you guys so much, and while I get down sometimes looking at my rather low subscriber numbers, I sometimes ask myself, why do I do this? I do this for the best fans any YouTuber could have on the internet. I really appreciate everything you guys do for me. And make sure you follow me on the Instagram and Twitter. My username is @JordanVonBeagle. And I will see you guys next time with another love story from another really amazing country. Jordan Rolfus from Beagle Rampant Productions, and I will catch you guys next time.